Good evening. Happy live. Thank you for popping in this Wednesday. Hopefully you guys are excited for a long weekend and Thanksgiving dinner and obviously time with friends and family. Thank you for those of you that popped into our giveaway on Friday. So we did $2,500. It was the first of the month. So we gave $2,500 to a lovely couple in Washago, and they were nominated by their daughter. So thank you for everybody that nominated people for that, as well as tuned into the giveaway on the first morning at 9 a.m. So today we're going to do our normal, which is basically answer your guys' questions. Hi, Scotty. Answer your guys' questions, go over some real estate updates, as well as basically do some happy news, okay? So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll just answer some questions that have come in throughout the week. And feel free to say hi, etc., because I only see your little bubble on the top and I don't always recognize who it is. I just always recognize Scotty's circle around his. But we'll start with the first question. Comes from Katie in Barrie. So Katie in Barrie said, how do I go about legalizing a basement apartment? And do you think that it's worth it? Thank you, Katie, for asking. So to be honest, it's been a while since I've done one. But I know that you had to go to the town/city and they'd say, okay, take this paper. And this was obviously before COVID, so I don't know if it can be done all electronically now. But they'd say, take this paper over to Manette's Point and get this signed off, here. Take this paper over to that station basically on Dunlop and Innisfil and get it signed by fire, etc. And then you had to go through the process. So you had to have 5/8 drywall. You had to have interconnected smoke alarms. So when one goes off upstairs, it goes off downstairs. You had to have fire rated doors that close automatically. And then a lot of people, in the furnace room, it's not finished on the ceiling. So you had to have it finished on the ceiling and so forth. So they'll just make sure that you have all those things done. And then obviously you have to pay them fees, etc. Hi, Rob. How are you? I hope you spoiled Adria for her birthday on Monday. And I can't see who the other person is. It's just a black bubble. The last person that came on. So hi, person in the dark there. So Katie, do I think it's worth it? So something that's really good about legalized basement apartments is, so let's just say somebody's buying her home. So for example, we have a client right now and she was approved for 530, but if she buys a legal duplex, she is approved for 800. So the reason that is because they can use half of the basement apartment as her rental, or towards basically the rental, but it goes towards her income. So let's just say it rents for $1,800 a month. She gets to use that $900 towards her income, and that put her up in her pre-approval from 530 to 800. So that's something that's good, because if it's not a legal basement apartment, they can't add any income. Even if the basement person's lived there for however long, 20 years, and they always pay a year in advance, etc., they won't let you use that income. So that's something that's good as well for legal. But if there's two, a legal and a non-legal side by side, doesn't automatically mean that the other one will get more. Okay, I wish it did, but unfortunately it doesn't. Okay, so just a couple happy news stuff before I do the real estate. So there was an avid biker, and he was a father of 3, and basically his bike got stolen. And at first, he was kind of pissed and annoyed and frustrated, but as he started to look around for other bikes for sale, etc., he saw that there wasn't really any. So he started to think maybe somebody that stole my bike also was looking for bikes and couldn't find one, and then maybe they had to have one to get to work or something like that. So instead of being all angry and so forth, he decided that he would start a free service to fix people's bikes. So just because being obviously an avid biker for so long, he realized and learned over the years how to, change chains and so forth. So he posted a post on Facebook and he said, I will fix anybody's bike for free. And if you have anybody that has extra bikes that they want to donate that don't work, etc., give them to me. I'll fix them and I'll give them to people in need. So within 24 hours, he had 30 bikes at his doorstep and over 520 emails of people that had bikes that they wanted to have fixed that they could donate. So I just like that he turned it around. Instead of just being angry at people. I was trying to see where this was because I forget where he lived. Virginia. Yeah. Instead of just being angry that somebody, stole his bike, he started to do this, and now he teaches classes to people so they can come in and watch him fix the bikes and so forth. So he's just helping the community come together and, give back to people that might not have enough money to buy their own bike and so forth. The next question comes from Jackie in Mount St. Louis, Moonstone. So Jackie said, all this talk about blind bids, etc., can't I just list my house, and if one person offers $850 and another person offers $900, can't I just say, hey, Mr. $850, you need to offer $901 if you want this to be yours, easy peasy? Jackie, I wish it was that easy. Unfortunately, if you are listed legally under the Real Estate and Business Brokers Act, we can't tell what the other offer is. So you can't tell, Mr. and Mrs. 850 that they have to go to 901. But I'm actually going to talk about that in a little bit when I do all the real estate. So I have like a whole section on that. So if you stay tuned on that and you're watching today, I'll answer that in more detail of the difference and the difference between auctions and so forth. Okay. But thank you for asking and writing in. Scotty, if you are still here, you will like this one maybe. Or he might be embarrassed. Last time he was embarrassed when I said something about Tinder. So Tinder is obviously a dating app, and instead of just like, people swapping dates and so forth, now it's kind of joke they're swapping organs because it's happened a few times. So there was this young man, Reed, he's 17. And don't get mad at me, Scotty. He's 17, and he, was a typical 17-year-old, etc., until he found out he had a kidney disease. And by the time he graduated college, his kidneys were only operating at 20% capacity. Or not capacity, but like whatever you want to call it, 20% use. I don't know. And they were quickly declining, so they put him on a transplant list, as well as they started to do dialysis regularly. So he didn't want it to stop his life. So he moved to Denver, Colorado, because that was always his dream. And he went on Tinder there and ended up meeting a young man, Raphael. And they started dating, they got married, and eventually found out that Raphael was a match for him. And so they started to save for a transplant. I guess maybe it's not covered there. I think it's covered here. I would imagine it is. But so they started to save for the expensive surgery. And they've since done that. So he got a new husband and a new kidney. So I obviously like that. It was cute. A little love story, but also he has a new start to life and health. So the next question comes from, if I go back to the right page, Andy from Newmarket. So Andy from Newmarket said, I bought a home in Newmarket 8 years ago, which it is cute, Scotty. Which originally had no neighbors behind. They have since taken the golf course that was behind me away and built homes. How can I buy somewhere else and make sure that nothing will happen behind me in the future? Thank you, Andy, for asking. So we've had clients that have had that as well, like it was a golf course or what have you. We've even had it was trees. But if it's not environmentally protected, then they could eventually, it could be a farm and the fellow, is 92 and passes away and the kids sell it off. So even if it's, environmentally protected, I have seen it happen where they, some people say money talks, and I'm sure they pay a lot of money, but they do change it. But I mean, you're a lot more protected if it's environmentally protected as opposed to just somebody owning it. So if it's an incorporated number or something like that. There was one just outside of Innisfil, and our client said, hey, who owns on the other side? And it said like blah blah homes. It wasn't Pratt Homes, but it was somebody homes, and they had just bought it like 4 months prior for like 26 million. So obviously that person is not going to keep it as a farmer's field, and they're going to turn it into a subdivision. So I would just have your realtor or your lawyer or whoever check who owns behind it, if it's a person, a corporation, etc., or if it's, say, the municipality of Simcoe or Nottawasaga Conservation or something like that. See if it's environmentally protected, and you can write in your offer that the seller represents and warrants and it's environmentally protected and so forth like that. And hopefully you find a new property with some environmentally protected space behind, so you don't have the neighbors and all the construction again. Okay, what is next? One more thing right before real estate. So California basically was making something wrong from the past right. So in 1912, there was a couple, Wilma and Charles, and they bought a property in California on the waterfront. They built a resort, and they were a black couple, and they used to get like a lot of slack and so forth from people around them, etc. And eventually, I want to say the state, I guess, seized it and said that they were going to make it a park. And just a few weeks ago, the supervisors on the Los Angeles County Board, I wanted to say the right people, they unanimously voted that it should go back to that family. So it went back to the grandkids and the great-grandkids of the people that used to have that, resort back in 1912. They had it for 12 years. I forgot to say that. They had it for 12 years before they seized it. So or back to its rightful owners minus the grandkids since they are no longer around. So now I'm going to do real estate. So before I do real estate, even though I said now I'm going to do real estate, just a reminder, on the first of every month, we do a $2,500 giveaway. So we call it a mortgage rent payment giveaway. So that was this past Friday. So if the person lives in Simcoe County, the person that nominates them could live in BC, could live in Ireland, etc. But the person that you're nominating has to live in Simcoe County and they have to be over the age of 18, okay? Hello. I might not say your name properly, but it looks like Neil. Thank you for popping in, Neil. You got here just in time for real estate. So last week I was speaking of the end of blind bidding. So basically, you know, the Liberals said that they want to end blind bidding. So blind bidding, just for a recap for people don't know, is if an offer comes in and there's one offer for 500, one offer for 600, one offer for 700. If you're the fourth offer, you don't get to know that's 500, 600, 700, and you could give 701 to get it. You don't know what to do, and you might give 900, and now you just went 200 higher than you needed to. So Justin Trudeau wants to take that away so people know, hey, I only have to give 701, okay? So that is basically what he wants to do, is to get rid of blind bidding. But I was saying last week that they think that that will take a long time to put all the different processes you know, in play and so forth, and they think it'll take longer than 4 years, which is what Justin has. So a lot of people don't think it'll come into play. However, CBC just did a new poll on 1,500 Canadians, and so 52% said they agreed with Justin and that they think that the blind bidding should be taken away. 25% said that they don't know, and 23% said they think it should stay as is. So the Canadian Real Estate Association, so there's different like accredited associations, Canadian, Ontario, local ones, etc. So the president of that said basically Canadians should have the right to choose how they want to transact what is most likely the largest purchase of their lives. So he's saying, you know, it doesn't matter what Trudeau says, they should have the option. If they want to sell it blind bidding, sell it blind bidding. If they want to sell it non-blind bidding, sell it that way, okay? Then the president of the Ontario Real Estate Association, his name's David Ockel, he said you can already sell without blind bidding. So what that is, it already exists, they can do it and it's auctions, or they can sell it privately, like for sale by owner, Purple Bricks, etc. So that way, if somebody comes in with an offer of 700, like I used that other example, they can say, hey, you need 701 or 705 to get this. So it already exists. So a lot of people have said like, oh, he just got that, you know, because people were talking about it to get votes and so forth. But blind bidding doesn't, you know, even if blind bidding goes away, it doesn't give us more inventory, okay? And that David Fellow just said basically, if you don't like selling with blind bidding, then sell with an auction. And if you don't like buying with blind bidding, then buy at an auction. That's basically what he said in a little nicer terminology, but that was me reading between the lines. Auctions, just so you know, aren't allowed by realtors. So the Real Estate and Business Brokers Act doesn't allow us to say what the price is. So we can't, you know, sell a house like an auction. We can't say, not that I talk fast like auctioneers or whatever, but we can't do that. We legally can't tell. Thanks, Douglas. You like my heart love earrings. Pearls are a girl's best friend. Okay, so auctions, yeah, are not allowed by realtors, okay? So currently there's like 135,000 plus realtors in Canada, but there's only a few auction houses that do real estate. Like most will do furniture and estate sales and all the stuff, the contents inside, but not a lot will do the homes. So like I said, the economists and just people in general keep saying taking away blind bidding is not going to help our inventory, and taking away blind bidding is not going to make things more affordable. So lots of people go to Australia. I can't see who that is if it's Lindsay. Most people but they use Australia as an example. So when Australia took away blind bidding, they, then they could hear all the prices and their prices actually went up. So it didn't level out the market, they went up, and Trudeau is trying to say, oh, it'll bring the market down, and theirs went up. So Australia, obviously, it's not like some rinky-dink little country, etc., and their prices jumped higher when they took away blind bidding. So a lot of people are saying it's not going to help. Again, it's not going to help with affordability, and it's not going to help with our lack of inventory. Just as a side note, there are, homes, the amount of homes that were being built in the 70s, there's less than 50% are being built now, which is crazy because we have lack of inventory. And And even if, they do want to, Trudeau does end up deciding, like he said originally, to take away blind bidding, they said that it needs to be done provincially because basically, he's federal and provincially is who takes care of real estate and says, okay, this is the rule, that's the rule, etc. Because selling in BC is different than selling in Ontario currently. I, for example, am only licensed in Ontario. It's different in every province. So he's saying, oh yeah, let's change all this. But in reality, he's not, provincially able to do that. So it would need to be provincial governments to do that. What else? On a side note, you have to do lots of research with renters. So basically, there's this fellow in Markham right now. He already had 17 counts of fraud before. He just got slapped with a couple of $5,000 fines. And in the meantime, between his last hearing and getting these new fines, he just rented 3 more properties. So what this fellow is doing is he's renting these massive homes, like luxury kind of homes, and he obviously must be in construction or know some kind of construction, and he's throwing up an extra couple of walls like in the dining room and the living room, etc., and just making a whole bunch of bedrooms and renting it out as a rooming house. And he's had different amount of homes over the time, but sometimes he makes $40,000 a month, etc. And obviously in the lease it says you're not allowed to have like 30 people living in one home. He pretends it's his family every time, not necessarily his family. He also uses fake ID. So just make sure you do your homework on your tenant and make sure you do regular site inspections so you don't go there and suddenly see you thought this man, his 2 kids were moving in and suddenly there's 45 adults living there. Okay, so do your homework, please. So, on the top of signs, it usually says, like for sale signs, it'll say coming soon or for sale or sold over asking, etc. Now some are saying like we need more listings just because of our lack of inventory. It's at an all-time low right now. So in Toronto, for example, this is the 3rd highest month ever for the average sales price. So it's just over 1.136, which is up over 18% over last year. And so even though prices are up over 18% over last year in Toronto, there was 18% less sold than last year and 34% less listed than last year. And again, this is just Toronto. I do all different areas just to keep you guys in loop depending on where you're from. So September 2020, there was just over 20,000 listings in Toronto. This September, there was just over 13,000 listings in Toronto, so it was down 34%. And the active listings in 2021 in total is just over 18,000 last year. Last year, and this year is just over 9,000. So, so less 49.4%. Can't read my own writing. TREB, which is the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, they're basically saying that, what the Liberals were saying were all Band-Aid promises and they don't actually do anything long-term. So we still have the problem, no supply, which drives our prices up because there's nothing for people to choose from. So economists are saying, even though we're, nearing the end of the year, we just have October, November, December, they still think that the home prices are going to go up from now to the end of the year, at least 5%. I can't see who's in there. Sorry, it's hard to see little bubbles who's there, but hi, whoever the last few people that just got on are. So to go up already 5% in the next 3 months when we've already, jumped such a crazy amount is great in some people's eyes. Like if you already own, if you don't own, it's frustrating because you're like, I can't save that fast. This is ridiculous. If you're curious what's gone up the most in 2020, it's single family detached homes, and that's across Canada, not just in Simcoe County. So I had a conversation yesterday with somebody who wants to move to New Brunswick. And I said, like, in my first 5 years of real estate, I think maybe like 1 out of 250 of my clients or something like that would change provinces, etc. And now I would say like maybe 3 out of 10 are leaving province. We've had 2 go west and the rest that have left province have gone east. So more people obviously going east. And it is for affordability, okay? And so Ontario, like when they look at all the different sections, etc., they've had some of the most highest increases. So let's just say 32%, 38%, 37%, 29%, etc. in all of Canada. The only place that has not is North Bay. So North Bay is down. They're supposed to be expected the rest of the year go down 2%. And everywhere else is predicted anywhere from 2 to 15% between now and New Year's Eve, okay? So when I was saying about everybody like leaving province, etc., so For leaving province, so for example, in Halifax, the average detached home is now just over 500,000, which doesn't seem like a lot, to myself or what have you here, but that's over 24% higher than their houses. This is again Halifax were last year. And then in Moncton, seems super cheap to me. Their average is 282, but that is up over 21% over last year. Okay. And then condos and townhomes have also gone up. Anywhere from 12.5% to 48.9% when they looked at Halifax, St. John, and Moncton. Okay, my randomness. So Moncton is supposed to have the biggest jump from now till New Year's, and St. John's is just 1 to 3%. Halifax is supposed to go up 6%. So Halifax's average is actually a little bit higher than Ontario's average, and the West Coast, since I'm talking a lot about the East Coast. So I might say it's wrong, but Nanaimo, I think of like those Nanaimo bars. They went up in BC 23%, Victoria went up 19%, and Vancouver went up 16.4%. And in Nanaimo, it went up 17.6% just for condos, which, they're only averaging 343, which seems super cheap to me, but that's up 17.6%, okay? Their average townhome is 511 and change, which again seems super cheap to me, but that's actually 65.8% higher than their average townhome last year, okay? So 511, but it's 65.8% over last year in Nanaimo, BC. And then since the pandemic, low, obviously, mortgage rates, etc. So it's made it so people can on average afford 10% more than they could last year. Even though most cities have gone up, 20 to, the high 30%. So there's the odd month they go up 40 something percent, but just on average, they're all still teetering around the 30%. So where homes in Ontario have gone up the most from September of 2021, from September of 2020 are as follows, okay? So the top 10 places that have gone up. So Belleville has gone up the most. Windsor has gone up second most, London third, where I was born. Barrie is number 4, so they've gone up 4th in all of Ontario. Oshawa is 5th, St. Catharines is 6th, Brantford is 7th, Kitchener, followed by Peterborough, and then Guelph is 10th out of places that have gone up the most from September of last year. And then the least places that have gone up, which is odd because normally these places are on the top, is Vancouver, Toronto, Victoria, Montreal, and then Sudbury, not usually on the top. But those are normally like Vancouver, Toronto, Victoria are usually at the top, and they are in the lowest of all places in Canada. And I said all of Ontario, but it just happened to be that the first 10 were Ontario. So it was actually in all of Canada. So, and how I keep saying, but I was saying about people moving east. So, for example, there was 8,000 in the last quarter, just shy of 8,000. It was like 7,984 or something. So 8,000 almost people have left Ontario in the last quarter alone. So that is more than 4 times the highest amount that Maritimes have ever seen. And it was actually more than the last 2 years combined for the whole 2 years, let alone in one quarter. So 4,600 people, 4,600 and change of those people went to Nova Scotia. 2,100 and change went to New Brunswick. And then there's just some little ones. So PEI got 869 people and Newfoundland got 806. So again, people are going for affordability. Now, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so 11,857 people left Ontario in the last quarter. So obviously they didn't all go east. Some went, I don't think they went north, but the odd one maybe, west and south. So that was 25% more than last year's quarter. And people are also, so mostly coming from Ontario and Alberta, okay? So they're not moving from BC to Halifax. They're either going from Ontario or Alberta. And it's not like retirees. A lot of people think like, oh, it's all retirees, etc. But 44% of them were between 18 and 45. So back before COVID, maritime provinces, when people finished university, etc., they would often leave. New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Halifax, etc. But now, since COVID, people, are actually going there more so. And the banks are even advertising to the people. So they're basically just saying, like, not to say live your best life, but quality of life. So they're saying, yeah, Toronto's nice, but if you live here, you can retire sooner. So that is what they're pushing. Which would you like, Dougie, to retire earlier? because that is what they are saying. They're like, hey, retire, instead of if you think you're going to retire at 70 in Ontario, I just made that number up. I don't know what the average age is. They're like, oh, well, you can retire here when you're 52 kind of thing. So that's what they're pushing. So even like in the most expensive regions in the Atlantic, they're still saying it's 60% cheaper than living in Toronto, but they didn't like compare it to, say, for example, Barrie or Hamilton, etc. Okay. Some people though are afraid because they're like, what happens if all these people move out east, then they don't like it and then they move back and then there's more inventory out east, and then the more inventory there is available, then if prices come down and then they sell for less than they bought. So that's the only thing that some people are worried of. Okay. So in Simcoe County in the last week, there's been 181 new listings. There's been 16 that fell apart, which means that somebody backed out because of financing or inspection, or they found another house they like better, etc. 56 of those homes went conditionally, so just 5 days or 7 days, etc. And then 206 went firm. So there's 262 homes that are either conditionally sold or firm, but there was only 181 new ones that listed. So that means, again, our lack of inventory. So they're going into older, staler listings, prior weeks leftover listings, because there's more people buying than there, is selling. Okay. So 360 people got keys to their homes. So that means they bought in prior months. 32 people decreased their price. That does not mean that they didn't get a price they wanted, etc. Sometimes they might list at $8.99, hoping for $8.80, for example, and now they cancel and relist at $7.99 to get a bidding war. So it doesn't mean that the market softened or anything like that. Okay, so I don't want you to think that you think the market has softened. 6 people increased their prices and 49 canceled and relisted. Okay, questions. Next one's from Amanda in Barrie. Amanda and Barrie said, we have an Airbnb past Midland, and the neighbors are always calling us when they're loud or park their cars sideways, etc. Once we did have true issues with guests, but that's it. How should we deal with neighbors and unruly guests? Should we have them? Thank you, Amanda, for asking. Unfortunately, there's always going to be a neighbor or multiple neighbors that don't like short-term rentals. For sure, they can have your number, but I would just, state online that it's not for parties, to, go along with local bylaws, whether that's, quiet after 11 or quiet after 10 or quiet after 9, etc. And just say, just keep reiterating, not for parties, please respect the neighbors, yada, yada, this is a family community, etc. And then say to your neighbors, unfortunately, I can't drive 4 hours to tell them to be quiet or whatever. I know it's not 4 hours to there, but I just said that. But you could say they're welcome to call the police if there's a noise, if they have a noise complaint, etc. But just let the Airbnb guests know, say you are able to rate me and give me, 1 out of 5 or 5 out of 5, etc. Just as I'm able to rate you. Please leave, our home in a clean condition, and please respect noise and whatever you want them to respect. Okay, so I would just keep bringing it to their attention because they probably won't read everything, and hopefully it has been profitable for you and you get to enjoy it sometime yourself as well. Okay, so one lady was out garage sailing and she found a wallet basically as she was leaving, and she looked inside and it wasn't the owner's, because it was a Jamaican fellow's license and the owners were Caucasian. So she took it, she went on Facebook and she looked for the person, didn't find him. She went on Google, couldn't find him, and she then posted on a Facebook moms group she was a part of, asking, and somebody said there was a local Jamaican grocery store, and to go in there and see if anybody had lost their wallet, and they did say that they knew of somebody. So she gave him her number. He called, they gave it to the person, he called, and he said yeah, my birthday, blah, blah. So instead of just giving it back to him, which was still nice, it had American money in it as well as Jamaican money, she asked if he needed anything. So it turned out that he was there, this was Rochester, New York. He was there picking apples with a bunch of other people from his hometown in Jamaica. And he said they would like warm clothes if possible. So she started a clothing drive, much like a toy drive at Christmas. And she got all these things donated from the community and so forth. And she went to give it to him and picked apples with him for the day. And I just thought it was cute because obviously she could have, 1, just taken the cash and tossed the wallet, or 2, just given it back to him, which is still nice. But she went above and beyond and got, more things for him and saw if he needed anything and just lent a helping hand. So I like that. Next question comes from Brad in La Sega. So Brad in Wasaga says, our son is at the home buying age, but as you know, the market is crazy and unrealistic for a single guy starting out. Do you think if interest rates go up middle to end of 2022, more people won't be able to afford their homes, so inventory will come onto the market and hence bring prices down? Thank you, Brad, for asking. They are, suggesting that, like you said, mid to end of 2022, that interest rates will raise. However, they're not going to raise tons. So like I've done examples in the past. So it's not like somebody's mortgage goes from $1,800 to $3,600. It might go from $1,800 to $2,000, but it's not going to jump an insanity amount. It might even be $1,800 to $1,920 or something like that. So unfortunately, I don't think that's going to bring a lot of inventory. And also, as they open up the borders and they bring another 400,000, people from different countries in, etc., it's going to just fuel that lack of inventory. And as you know, building and stuff is slowed down because trying to get drywall, trying to get 2x4s, trying to get everything is very slow. So everything's just delayed. So unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be the inventory to make it come down. So it won't be like insanity jump from 2020 to 2021. It won't be like that, but it will still continue to rise. So unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be better for your son next year. I wish I had better news for him, but I do not. So I apologize. But thank you for asking. So the next thingy is from proposals to saving dogs. So there were a group of friends out, and they were, where were they? They were in Indiana National Park. And so a couple of friends raced ahead, and basically they're trying to scope out an area for their friend to propose to his girlfriend. And they ended up, there's all these cracks and crevices and caves and so forth, and they saw something moving below, and turns out it was a dog. So the dog was a long way down. So they put the proposal on hold, raced back to their vehicles. They got ropes, and I guess they were avid, mountain climbers, or I don't know. They're out there, and adventurous people. So they ended up all hooking onto each other, blah, blah. Somebody went down in the crevice / cave, got the dog out, who had been missing for over 2 weeks and supposedly lost over 80 pounds. And they got the dog out. They posted the video on social media and found the owners within 2 days. And the fellow ended up proposing to his girlfriend, and she said yes. So it was 2 happy stories in one. So I like that. What else do we have? Josh from Oro. Josh from Oro said, my mom and I came to an open house of yours a good 7 or 8 years ago. Do you think open houses will ever go back to what they used to be, and where do you see the market going? Thank you for asking, Josh, and hopefully I made a good impression on you at the open house. Thank you for popping into my open house and the live. So I don't, to be honest, think they're going to go back to normal. We do basically currently have a selfie stick right now, just on a tripod or whatever. And I go around with the selfie stick in homes, and I talk about the property, etc. And normally open houses, we might get 3 to 10 people at the most. And now we get, say, 50 to 200 watching right in that time, which is already higher. And then within a few days, it jumps up sometimes 1,000, 6,000, 8,000, 9,000, depending on how many people share it and so forth. So it just gets way more reach and way more eyeballs on the property. So to be honest, I don't think we're going to go back. And it saves the sellers because I'm only there 15, 20 minutes max as opposed to 3 hours. And as for where the market is going, just like the other fellow I just said, it is going up. It's not going up crazy from 2020 to 2021, but it will go up a steady rise is what all the economists are saying, a steady climb. Okay, thank you for asking. I think I had one more good news thing. Oh yeah. Have you guys seen the new James Bond movie advertised, the No Time to Die thing? So there was a fellow, and he was at the theater with his wife. He was 81. He had a heart attack, and 4 people that were around, sitting around himself and his wife, started to administer CPR to him for over 12 minutes before paramedics got there. And it's just weird because the movie's called No Time to Die, and he did live, and they saved him. So I just thought it was cute because the name No Time to Die, and it wasn't his time. And if they hadn't hopped in, I don't know if the paramedics, if they had just waited 12 minutes, if he would still be there to tell the story. So I thought that was cute. Anyways, I hope you guys have a spectacular Thanksgiving and long weekend. I hope you go after all of your dreams, and anybody that tries to talk you out of your dreams, I think they're just not going after theirs and too afraid to go after their own. So do not let them pull you down, and go after everything you desire. Much love.